are live. What's happening? And first and foremost, thanks everybody for coming to some ChatGPT. I was in the news of what's going on. That's a whole different conversation. We're not here for a news update. I can't tell you what's going on over there, but we are to help you on AI. So as people are hopping into the session, some people are already on it. Y'all know what it is. I mean, for these shows, let us know where you're tuning in from, and then also as well, let's get a pulse check. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being you are actually a robot and you're expert at AI, or 1 being like you're a complete novice and you're afraid of it. How do you feel about AI? 1 to 5, 5 being you are the most proficient person in the entire world, or 1 you're like, yo, that's just I don't know what I'm doing. So we're gonna see a ton of things here. So it looks like we have a solid threes, right? Solid 2s and 3s. Okay, that's good. So today we're gonna dive into some prompts to help you all out. I got my boy Jed here, and it's gonna be an exciting time. So we have 45 minutes here that we're gonna dive into, 30 minutes of content, 15 minutes Q&A. As we go through this, I know everyone's gonna ask me this, and I've done enough of these webinars, so I already know this question is gonna come. You're gonna get the recording. All right. So chill, relax. It's gonna be okay. I know one of y'all are gonna ask me this, and then when I say this, y'all are gonna troll me and then be like, "Yeah, Morgan, did we get the recording?" You are gonna get the recording. So if you ask me, you're gonna get it. I'll probably ignore you at this point because you're gonna get the recording. So relax. Also, as well, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A so we can answer them according to this session across the board. And then also as well, as we go in this session, if you have any interaction that you want to provide, again, in the chat, we're going to dive into that as well. So as we dive into what we're here today is how do you get better at AI? How do you get better at ChatGPT, which is what we're going to dive into. Jed, if you could introduce yourself, I'll do a quick introduction and we'll get into it.
Yeah, what's up, Morgan? Thanks for having me here. What's up, everyone? My name is Jed Marley. I'm the founder of Practical Prospecting. I just left a company called Mailshake, was there for about 2 years as the director of sales, leading an SDR team. This whole year, I've been just diving deeper and deeper into AI, using a bunch of different tools. Morgan and I have done a couple different AI shows like this before, so I'm super excited to share some prompts. Also would love to see like just as many questions as possible, because I know when it comes to AI, it's not always just, hey, do this one thing, and then you're going to have a super specific outcome. Lots of times there's nuances and questions. So would love to see some good questions, and we can kind of break it down live for y'all as well.
Awesome, y'all. And I am Morgan Ingram, formerly at JV Sales. I was a sales trainer. I trained Slack, Google, Snowflake, etc., all the top high growth companies. And now I own my own company called AMP, and we are B2B media, helping you advance your pipeline and create pipeline through innovative strategies. And I'm excited to dive into this today as a creative advisor to Cognism and diving into this prospecting pieces. So again, we're going to dive right into it. We're going to waste no time. This is going to help you fill your prospecting, not replace it. I always, when I talk about AI, it's not about, getting rid of something. It's to amplify or accelerate something. But Jen, what's your take on this? Because a lot of people think that AI is just going to take over the world. We're going to have no sales teams and it's game over. But what's your perspective? And then audience, what's your perspective on this as well?
Yeah, I think anybody so there's two perspectives from this, right? If you're an SDR, you're doing a lot of manual work, whether that's list building, research, even going in and specifically personalizing your emails, researching people before you call. I think AI is really good for breaking down your whole day from end to end and figuring out where like the little 30-minute, hour-long blocks where I'm doing manual stuff that I can automate with. And then we're also seeing a big shift of, and if you're an AE on this call, maybe you can relate to this, of A's having to do more full cycle, do more prospecting. And obviously you're wearing a bunch of hats now, you're running calls, you're following up, you got to do prospecting. So AI should fuel your prospecting. I completely agree. I think specifically more on like the research and list building side, that's where I've used it the most, as opposed to like the actual creative side. But yeah, I completely agree with this.
Yeah. So, this is interesting. Roxy said, hey, there's already companies replacing human SDRs and producing larger volumes. What, I guess, producing more meetings or putting more output? Because if it's putting more output, y'all saw what Google's doing. So that's probably not the move. So at the end of the day, like, I think it's a mixture of using what you're already doing to amplify and then also in the research. But let's go into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is taking the emails, right? And I've been successful in placing them with ChatGPT, right? And so the thing that I want to dive into here, and we're going to share our screen shares, is taking emails that you've already done and then figuring out, okay, like what was good about it and what was not, right? And so I'm going to bring up like a live example of like how you can do that. But I'm going to show y'all real quick what the prompt is so we can break it down. So a little bit smaller, you got to zoom in here. But the whole thing is that for everybody who's drafting good emails, and you probably have an email that has a response, or you can even ask like your executive leadership, hey, like what's an email that was really good? The purpose of that is how do you replicate that language so then you can essentially expedite, right, the way that you would reach out to people and then inevitably get those results, right? That's the whole premise. That's the goal here. That's what you want to focus on. So, really at the end of the day, like one of the things that I recommend people to get involved with and to start is one of the main core things is, first of all, get an email and then ask it about its tone, length, style, and through the NLP lens. Now, NLP stands for neuralistic programming, and so this is just a good psychological breakdown I like to get an understanding of if this email is good or not, right? And then now it gives me the breakdown of the email. Then the next thing that you want to do is identify the three to five personas that you go after. And this should be something that everyone here on this call, you should know who your buyer personas are and what they care about and what their goals are, right? So once you figure that out, then that allows you to then figure out how to actually reach out to this person with some type of a personalized message, right? Then the next piece you'll see right here is you always have to remember to tell ChatGPT to not forget. All right. I don't know why, but like it sounds like such a small detail, but you have to tell it to remember what it just did. And that just allows for it to, in the entire conversation, to remember what's going on. So for context, like when you are in a conversation, right? So that's just like one tab. It has an ongoing chat. It won't remember what you do in the next one. So you always have to tell it, hey, remember what I just analyzed. Remember what I just saw. You have to tell it to do these things. Otherwise, it won't work. So you need to tell it consistently, remember this, do these things, right? And then that's going to ultimately help you, right, in the direction of where you want to go, right? And I tell people that to do that pretty consistently. And then the next piece is I'm actually telling it, hey, here's an email, here's the parameters of the email, and here's how to go about it. Now, you're going to see this and you're like, okay, well, Morgan, I could just write the email. You can absolutely do that. I'm just giving you an example of how you can amplify what you're already doing here across the board, right? This will allow you to move a lot faster, right? And so that's the piece on the prompts, right? So if we were, for example, to go in here, I'm looking at my ChatGPT right now, we're going to share it. We can actually create a whole scenario that would then, allow us to dive into this as well. It's neuralistic programming. NLP stands for neuralistic programming. It's basically just a way to analyze words, tone, etc. Through psychology. So that's what it means. But let's actually go into ChatGPT real quick, right? And y'all can see what I'm talking about in terms of this breakdown. So real quick, share my screen. Boom, we're in ChatGPT. So this is in the 3.5. So this is in the regular version. If you have 4, you can definitely do that. It'll be faster, but I'm going to go in 3.5. First of all, as you see, I have a lot of conversations. For those of you like, oh, is he actually like? I'm pretty deep in this thing. So, anyways, so the whole thing is, what should we do? So, like, let's just say you have an email that you sent out, right? And you really want to get in front of somebody, right? So I want y'all to think about right now, what is an email, right? That you're like, wow, this was a really good email for me. This one was extremely successful, right? I was able to get in front of this person and, it led to a meeting, right? I want y'all to think about what that was for you, right? And then how that, led to a response, things of that nature, right? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in here, so I'm going to throw in something that led to a response for me, right? So I'm going to throw in this email real quick, right? And what I'm going to do is before this, I'm going to say this prompt, right? So you see this prompt that we had from earlier. I'm going to say, analyze this email based on tone, length, and wording. And then I'm going to say, use NLP to analyze the psychology of this email. All right, and let's go back and do this. Okay, boom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it do that. And so then pretty quickly it just analyzes. So this is actually just really interesting, right? So like,
yeah,
I like this because here's the thing. A lot of you probably came in here being like, oh, give me the template. Like that doesn't really matter. What really matters is like what actually happened here. What is the psychological analysis, right? What is the length? What is the wording? What is the tone? This is why people respond to emails, right? If I give you a template, guess what? That template's probably not going to work in like 6 months, right? I've been doing this for a hot minute, and like I could give you some templates, but they probably wouldn't be good, right, until later. So it's important to understand what is the psychological breakdown, what is the tone, what is the length of this email that got a response. And this didn't get a response, but the whole thing is now that I know that, right, it's putting me in a better place moving forward, right? So everybody tuning in, it's about understanding why did this get a response. And guess what? Most of you right now probably have way more data sets and sample sizes than I do. Go ask your leaders. Go ask, hey, what email did you really like? You could literally throw emails into a whole entire thing and get all the psychological breakdown, the length, the tone, and it gives you all of this right here, right? And so this is actually extremely beneficial if you're starting out, or even if you're just like, been in the game for a while. This is just really helpful for me to figure out how can I write my emails better, right? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it, right? Remember this, right? Because I'm telling y'all, I don't know. Sometimes it be tripping. So you got to tell it to remember. I don't know. I really don't know why. You got to tell it to remember what's going on, right? So then boom, they remember it. And then, for this example, one of the things you can do is, let's say I'm going after a VP of marketing, and I'm going to show you all this in real time on how you can get these personas, just in case if like you're like, oh, I don't know, like, I don't really know like how to get these like things that they care about or things of that nature. You can always just like quickly go here. I literally just pulled up a random example. You could literally go in the job descriptions and then just type in like what are they responsible for, and then check this out. It literally tells you what they're doing. All right, so I'll literally just go in here and be like, I'm going after, or I'm targeting a VP of marketing. And by the way, y'all probably have way more information than this. I'm just giving you baseline if you have nothing. And let's see, their goals are the following. Use this later for my email. All right, cool. So then it's going to do this. And then I say, can you make me a table? So I don't know if y'all knew this, and in ChatGPT you can make it can make a table, and it's not doing it for me right now, so it's embarrassing me. Can you make me a table that could be used in Excel? Come on. All right. Okay, hold on. So sometimes this is good in real time. Sometimes ChatGPT will try to play you. So I try to go here and say, can you make me a table? Okay. There we go. See, boom. All right. So inside of ChatGPT, you can make a table, right? And then it breaks this down. I really like this because then you can add services that can help. And then now you can create your emails off this. And then you can go from there. So I could literally say, take the framework from last time, create an email, create 5 emails. I could be like, take the information from my email framework and create me 5 emails that address the goal of increase brand awareness through marketing. And I didn't put my services in here too, but I'm literally just kind of doing this to show you an example, right? And then so as you'll see right here, it literally goes in here and does this. Now, it kind of messes up. It doesn't hope you're doing well, but it does the length, but it kind of messes a couple things up. So you got to go back in here and probably take this out, right, and move it. But you see the point, right? You're able to create this, and the whole premise, right, is it gets you 80% of the way there. So now you created 5 emails that are 80% of the way there. You now can massage it, figure out how to get better, and now you can replicate it. Sure, because you write these yourself, you absolutely can, but I'm just showing you how it actually could skyrocket your results if you already have good emails in play. So that's my first play, but Jed, I know you got your play next.
Yeah, can I say a couple of things about that, Morgan?
Yeah, go ahead.
So 2 things come to mind. So first off, I think one of the most important things when it comes to ChatGPT is the amount of examples you give it, because obviously if you're giving it more examples, it's going to know exactly what type of output you're looking for. And so I feel like, people are always sharing email templates or things on LinkedIn. Like, you're getting good emails, your leaders are getting good emails. If you continue to add to that same chat prompt or in that same area, the email results that it gives you will only get better. And then the other thing I was going to ask about, Morgan, is have you seen the custom GPTs that are coming out now?
What? No, I haven't.
Yeah. I don't know. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys have seen this, but it's like OpenAI is releasing basically like the GPT app store or whatnot, where you can go in and build your own custom GPT and then sell it. Anybody on the pro plan can do this, and I've already seen a couple people on LinkedIn do it. But for example, Morgan, like, you could take all of these emails that you're finding from different people's like LinkedIn's or like from your emails and put that into your own custom GPT that's just trained on all the best possible emails. So anyways, I just thought that was cool. It's something for people to look into.
Some people want to know if it's free before you go into this play here.
So I'm not talking about that for what I'm about to share. It was just a topic that came from Morgan. The GPT App Store thing. I don't know if it's free or not. I think you have to have a pro plan. I actually haven't used it yet. It's just something that recently just came out that I'm trying to learn more about. But what I'm about to show you is free. So let's go to so the topic I'm going to be talking about is summarizing key topics about your target accounts quickly to write personalized emails. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can do it in ChatGPT by researching a bunch of accounts at once, or you can integrate ChatGPT into like a Google Sheet or use it in like an integrated platform where you can analyze a bunch of accounts at once. But the idea here is to put yourself, like, think about when you're researching a company, what are all of the things that you're looking for? List that out for ChatGPT in your prompt, and then give it a bunch of company descriptions for the accounts you want to go after, and just ask it to automatically do all that research for you. And then what Morgan kind of already showed you, you can pull that into a table so that when you're personalizing these emails or when you're reaching out to these prospects, you already have all the research laid out for you right away. So Morgan, we go to the next slide, or I guess I can control it from my end.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. So just like Morgan, I'm going to share an actual live example. But first, let's go through the prompt. So these are the things that have historically mattered to me. It just depends on who you sell to and what matters to you when you're researching. But this is the prompt that I generally use. So summarize 3 different things for me using the input provided. First, I need you to tell me who this company's ideal customer is. Tell me the specific industry they sell to. Do not give me a generalized example. Keep your answer 8 words max. Second, I need you to tell me what this company's mission is. Summarize in 8 words max what it is they help with. Again, be specific and use keywords from the input. Third, I need you to tell me the usual job titles that would buy their solution. Again, keep it 8 word max and keep it specific. So what I'm doing is asking for 3 things. Who is my target account's ideal customer? What do they help with? And who are their ICP job titles? Those are 3 things that for me personally, specifically when I was selling at Mailshake, which is a sales software, were helpful for me to know, because the most important thing when you're writing emails is having a why for why you're reaching out to that company. And so if I can mention things like what their mission is, who they're selling to, who their ICP is, and tie that into my value proposition, my emails come across as super relevant, super specific, and it kind of goes along with that saying of show them you know them, kind of. And so you may not care about these 3 things, but the whole idea here is to ask GPT, what are the things you care about when it comes to researching a company? And so this is like a template of an example I would share. Just like Morgan said, it's just a template, right? Things are going to get, if everybody uses the same template, it's not going to work anymore. But this is an example of if I was a sales rep at ChatGPT, how I would use this data to actually, reach out to different sales organizations. So the template goes, hey, name, looks like you help industry. Again, we found that from ChatGPT with solution. Seems like your primary target is job titles. Again, we found that from ChatGPT. That ICP can be hard to reach given the amount of solution providers in the space. Have you given any thought to using AI for more targeted messaging? Could help you cut through the noise. Happy to share a quick guide to put together if it's relevant. So this is just an example of what a lot of my emails would look like. And I just wanted to do it from the perspective of if I was a sales rep selling at OpenAI, selling ChatGPT. But let's jump into ChatGPT so I can kind of show this live. Morgan, do you care if...
You got it.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, whoops. Sorry, share the wrong tab. Give me 1 second. All right. Are you seeing my screen right now?
We can see it. Can you all see it as well? And this is, I believe this is the free version. So this is the 3.5, everybody.
Yeah. So just focusing on free version right now. So this is the example, right? I don't want to read through the prompt again, but again, whatever these topics are for you, maybe you have 5 topics, maybe you have 2, whatever that research is that you want to find out about a company, that's what you're putting in these 3 different topics here. So I'm saying summarize these 3 things I care about, who their ICP is, who their target titles are, and the solution they help with. And then the input is you just want to grab the company description, usually on LinkedIn or in the about page of their website. So just copy and paste that into ChatGPT. That is usually enough information for ChatGPT to go through and figure out this information for you. So in this example, I used the old company I used to work for, PandaDoc, and I just said analyze PandaDoc's ICP, all this other information, so I can write a personalized email to them. So again, you're just copying and pasting the company description. Now, if you want to do this for, let's say, 10 target accounts, all you have to do is say, now do it for this one, now do it for this one. Just copy and paste the descriptions. And again, this can be automated much faster if you're using GPT's API key and tying that into like a Google Sheet. But cool. So now what it's done here is it said it's giving me the ideal customer, it's giving me their mission, and it's giving me the primary job titles that they reach out to. So what I would do from here now is continue to do a couple more of these target accounts and then have it build a table, just like Morgan said. So just for the sake of time, I won't go through a bunch of other researching a bunch of other accounts. But again, in Morgan's example, now take this data and turn it into a table that I can use in Excel. Cool. And so again, this is just one account here, but what you would do is do this for, let's say, 10 to 20 accounts that you're trying to reach out to, put it all into one table, push that table into an Excel sheet. And now when you're writing your emails or reaching out to these prospects, you already have the data there. So you can just pull it into your emails, pull it into your messaging, and everything's much more streamlined. I got a couple other examples, but Morgan, I don't know if you got any questions or anything in the chat. I can't see the chat from where I'm sharing right now.
No, I just look at any questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to chime in, y'all.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna stop sharing from here. Where do I see what version I'm using for my ChatGPT? Should be at the top, just the top of your page. It'll say 3.5 or 4.0. I'd assume you're using 3.5.
Okay, a couple things in here. How do you assess the accuracy of the outputs? That's a good question.
So if I'm doing, like in my example right there, normally what I would do, like I said, is analyze a bunch of accounts at once. And so usually what I'll do is take like the first couple, just spot check. So maybe go in, read the data myself and make sure it lines up. I think if you're doing like a bulk kind of research list, you want to just spot check a couple and make sure things check out. And the other piece of that is giving it examples. So if I say, hey, here's an example of what the output should look like, and give it a couple of those examples, then the AI is going to get better at knowing what a good example, an accurate example would look like.
Do you ever use ChatGPT to generate great questions to ask your ICP in either a first call or a disco?
I have not. I do have a friend that I work with sometimes, and he sells to developers and engineers, and he knows nothing about that space, and neither do I. And so he does use ChatGPT a lot to just decode some of the technical lingo that he isn't familiar with. I don't know what specific prompts he uses, but I don't know, Morgan, have you ever done this?
Dan, I have done this, and so what I'll do is I'll have my own discovery questions, right, that I typically use, and then I'll throw in the objections I typically get on a call, and I'll have the AI run like a 20-minute discovery call, and it like goes in for like 20 minutes. And so what happens is I'll go through the call, and then I'll be like, hey, like, and I don't know if y'all use this, analyze it as someone else. I'll be like, analyze this as X person and tell me what questions they would have asked. So you can pick, really anyone that you want, right? Let's say someone that you respect or a salesperson, you're like, oh, this is a good salesperson. Then you could actually use that like as an analyze. So I could like pull someone's like just like gong call or whatever. I can pull in their recording. They can analyze the tone, and then I can say, hey, analyze this call as this person, right? And so that's the key thing as well. So that's like another component. That's another thing that you can do as a part of it. So that's the thing that I would say there. I see a couple questions. We're going to get to that. I'll show the last play, and then we'll dive into the rest of your questions. So you'll see here, review emails by having persona critique. This was actually like really straightforward. All you do is you take an email and then you say review this as the persona. Now, the thing that I like about this one is it can bring up potential errors, things to consider as part of this conversation. So I have an email that I have, and it's like, oh, great, that's fantastic, and I can actually review it as the persona and as part of the challenge and parties that they have. So if we go back to what I showed you earlier, all I would do is add in this prompt and just say, hey, review this email, and then now it can give me an analysis of how that person could potentially respond. Not to say that they're going to give you like, the game changer, but it will give you a perspective of how you can go about that as well. So that's like the other piece of this as a part of it. So again, you just take this, you say, hey, review the email, you insert the title, they have the challenge and parties from before, and then it'll give you a breakdown of what that email looks like. So that's just an additional prompt that I want to add here. And it's just, again, it's good. I see like you're going to send out all these emails anyways, and I'd rather test it inside of the AI first to get at least a pulse check. I'm not saying this is a silver bullet. I'm not saying this is the answer, but it is something. And that's at least we want. We want something. And so that's at least what it does there. So, Jen, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, and then we'll answer the rest of these questions as we have about 15 minutes left here.
No, I think it's super solid. Like, if you're doing a sequence where, a lot of people do it this way, where they have like one template and they'll go in and maybe personalize a few things, but the general template kind of stays the same. If you're going to send that out to hundreds of people, it's a really good idea to both get feedback internally from like different peers in your organization, but also go to ChatGPT, like Morgan mentioned. So if you have any sort of sequence where you have a lot of the same template being sent out, I'd say over and over, even if you're doing some personalization, asking ChatGPT for some feedback on the buyer's perspective of what you could change is really helpful. And another key point to that, Morgan, is, as we all know, when you're writing cold emails, the best way to do it is to write in the customer's language and use words that they would use. And so if you're selling into a persona that you're not super familiar with, like Morgan mentioned with the VPs of marketing, maybe ask ChatGPT like, hey, what are some specific things that marketing leaders talk about or care about, or try to get an understanding of like their language and the words that they would typically use to then input that into your email copy. So yeah, it's a great example of that.
Awesome, y'all. So if you have time left, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. I see a couple in the chat. Okay, what do you do if ChatGPT says it gives a download link and the link doesn't appear?
I'm not really sure. Maybe just refresh, because usually the download link, in terms of what I think this person's talking about, is in the top right corner.
I think so,
and it looks like a little file share button.
Might be a cookies thing.
Yeah, I haven't had this issue before, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that might be a cookies thing. So that's why I might dive into there. All right, let's see another question that we have here. This seems like a very manual, labor-intensive, and as a result, a lengthy process. You increase the quality, but aren't there tools that do this? So, Rick, here's the way. I'm curious for your perspective, Jeff, but here's the way you think about it. The process that we did, yes, it is lengthy, but that is the initial setup, just like with anything. Even if you do like, I walk people through like Sales Navigator setup, and it's like, oh, it's a lengthy process. Well, yeah, the setup is lengthy, but once you do it, it becomes scalable. Once you have the prompts, then all it is just inputs, and it's really quick. So what we're showing you is, yes, the initial setup is lengthy for sure, but it allows you to have a testing ground before you send these emails out. You can increase the quality and you can send out a lot of emails, but you already seen the updates. Like, that's not going to be the move moving forward. So the best way to figure out what am I actually saying, you put it through ChatGPT, you analyze it with personas, you analyze your messaging, you test it in a place that's safe before you put it out there. You can still do that. But as you see, like, it might not be the best move. But Rick, I do agree. Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, you don't want to be spending all day long in ChatGPT because, yeah, it can be a rabbit hole. But really, this is actually more of a setup so you can have more outputs consistently. And that's all we're showing you here today is how to set it up. But once you set it up, like, you see all the conversations I have, it's really just inputs at that point.
Yeah, I mean, not too much to add. There are ways you can like integrate ChatGPT to make it more efficient, and that's kind of a topic for a different day, I guess, because that's not really what we're diving into. But to your point, Morgan, yeah, it's just you're going through the setup, and then like for the one example where you're sharing good emails, anytime you want to come up with a new sequence or you're going after a new market, you can go in there and say, hey, remember all these good email templates I said? Now I need you to write me a new one based on the same frameworks, but for this persona, and it just takes a couple minutes.
Awesome. Have you used ChatGPT to analyze calls? Yes, I have.
Yeah, go ahead, Morgan. I'm curious if.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing I use to analyze the emails, I use the same thing to also analyze the calls. Also, as well, I'll use like and also a lot of these tools can do this now, by the way, too. But I'll just basically put a call in there, and I'll say, hey, here's my framework on how I typically write my follow up email. Can you take it and write a follow up email? And it can get to that level. So to a degree, yes, I do use it to analyze the calls, pull up summary. But I use like a recording tool to do that, and then it gives me the summary. And so then if I want to summarize the summary inside of ChatGPT, I can. But like a lot of these tools now can do an AI summary as well.
There's one way I've used this, not for like demo calls, but I was working with a client on cold email strategy, and their team was booking a lot of meetings over cold calling. So they were getting tons of meetings over cold calling. They couldn't figure out email. And so one of the first things we did is we downloaded the transcript from the cold calls, and we would upload that into ChatGPT and look for and ask it to pull out specific keywords around pain points or problems they're running into. And then we would pull out those language snippets and use that to write our cold email. So it was kind of like an initial step in doing market research into why are these people booking meetings on the phone, but we can't figure it out in email. It was kind of a way of translating that language from the cold calling or from the cold call scripts and the messages that people were saying and pushing that into actual email templates. So that one's actually really interesting. If you find yourself booking far more meetings on the phone than you do email, try to pull out the specific language that's being said on the phone and tie that into an email.
Great stuff. Could you share the top 5 prompts for prospecting that you use on a daily basis?
I don't have like a top 5 top of my. It's funny. There's like a very simple one that I use. I use ChatGPT all the time to create Boolean searches. So like I'll scrape a list of prospects from like a website or whatnot or from LinkedIn, and then I'll say, hey, turn all these company names into a Boolean search, which is just like, if people don't know what a Boolean search is, it's like a way of searching a bunch of keywords all at once. Yeah. And so I would say like turn all these companies into a Boolean search, push that into Sales Navigator so I can like in one instance find all the contacts of these companies. There is another one that I use a lot to come up with like creative sales strategies. I'll share that in the chat. But shoot me a DM as well, because it just kind of depends on what you're looking for, and I kind of have my own swipe file of different prompts that I use usually.
Top 5. I mean, the ones I showed you are within my top 5. A lot of things that I use in terms of prompts are just what we've been talking about: analyzing calls, coming up with questions, looking at, you know, a big piece of a lot of stuff that we look at is just how do we analyze and test the stuff that we're doing already. So those are like my main prompts. So the main ones that I showed you are the key. Curious if anyone has any main prompts that they use or things that they like in the text as well in the chat they want to share. That's great. But I really just use it as like testing ground, continuously checking out, okay, how can I get better? You know, how can this evolve and things of that nature. So that's at least the way that I look at it. As we have like 10 minutes left here, anybody have any lasting questions around AI or what we talked about that you're like confusing? How do you integrate ChatGPT into Excel sheets? I mean, I use Claude for this because it actually can do that input. I think I hit you up about the Claude. Yeah, Claude's crazy.
Yeah, man.
You can do like docs and sheets. So if you want to do that, I actually spend a lot of time over there now. But that's the thing I would say.
Yeah, I checked that out. And if you're curious to learn like the ChatGPT, I'm going to put it in the chat. There's like a really good link. This is the guide that I used. It's actually much simpler than it seems. You just go into a new Google Sheet, you click on extensions and then add-ons, and then you essentially insert your ChatGPT API key. But this is just a way if you want to like get stuff out of ChatGPT and you prefer to use in Sheets, it can be a little bit more efficient. But I did check out the Claude. That's also just as cool. So check that out.
Claude
as well.
goes crazy, y'all. Like,
Yeah,
and I know we're doing ChatGPT. Like, I have a baseline understanding of that now, but now I'm moving to Claude, and yeah, once we get into that, we'll have a conversation on that one. But that one is fun because you can put in your 10K reports, PDFs, document sheets. It's a ton of fun. Yeah, Eddie. Yeah, it's great. It's wild. I was like, wait, what? So yeah, we're having some fun with that one. Claude, it's right there in the chat, Ronan. Eddie just typed it out. I use it. If you type remember this, how long? Okay, actually, this question here. How to set up context. If you type remember this, how long will ChatGPT remember? So you can create a background prompt. It basically remembers it inside of that conversation. So every time that you start something new, it's called a conversation, and then you're chatting inside of that conversation. So if you try to take information outside of the conversation, it will not work. That's why you want to stay within the realms of what you're doing inside of that conversation. So that's effectively how that works, just to give you some context on how that all plays out.
Yeah. In the pro plan as well, you can like insert background or like give it context for everything. I'm pretty sure this is just in the 4.0 where you can have it say like, hey, when you're answering prompts, like remove buzzwords, for example, or think from the perspective of like a master copywriter or whatever. So you can give it some like high level insights, but I'm pretty sure that's just on 4.0.
All right, let's see. There's any questions that we missed here that anyone wants to break down? Yeah, check out Claude if you haven't. It's really good. It actually is, I believe it's up to date. So it's actually one that I've been using lately, and I'm like, all right, cool. It's got some good insight there. In terms of the prompts, you all have all the prompts there as well, so you can access that. But I want to make sure that we didn't miss a question. If we missed your question, put it back in the chat if you have another piece that you want to dive into. But I know there's always questions around AI and how to go about it. But yeah, a lot of the prompts here that we've talked about, definitely pieces that I would be diving into to make sure you get the most out of it. But I don't know if anyone has any lingering questions that they want to dive into as we get out of here. Or if not, Jed, if you have any lasting pieces that you want to talk about. Oh, the free version isn't up to date with the data. Is that correct? Yeah, it's like September 2022 or 2001, one of those. I think that's what it is. I believe that's the last time I'm up to date. Jed, thank you if I'm wrong. I'm gonna go check right now.
Yeah, and then I think it was they like pushed it to 2022 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you do a quick Google search, it should be easy to find. And then there's also plugins that you can use to like scan web pages or do stuff that's a little bit more up to date. Yeah, I mean, in terms of final things to mention, I think the prompts that you shared, Morgan, are particularly relevant given all the like the Google spam stuff that everyone's been seeing. Because one of the biggest issues with email templates is that if you send the same one over and over and over again, Google's going to notice, you're going to be more likely to go to spam. And so one of like a quick way that I do it is once a month, I'll go through all of our email templates and just do a quick rewrite on them. And it's really easy to do this with ChatGPT. Just say, hey, write me 5 different variations of this template using the same frameworks. Don't say hope all is well, keep it the same length, all that stuff. And then you can plug those back into your sequences. So that way you're always kind of refreshing the copy and not just using the same templates over and over.
Do you think the current now we're getting deep now. Do you think the current ousting situation and restructuring the company hierarchy at OpenAI will lead to a decline in the output quality of ChatGPT in the long term? Simple answer is yes. Like if the 500 people leave the company, then yeah, it's not gonna be good. So it just depends on if they stay or not, or if they bring Sam back. I think it's for me, it's as simple as that. It just depends on what they decide to do.
I think they'll bring Sam back like Steve Jobs style back in the day. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. I mean, who knows? That's why there's other tools out there. It's not like ChatGPT is not the only one. Claude's awesome. I've been playing with that ever since Morgan told me about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Claude's legit. So how do you use it for company research and insights alerts? So I really like actually using just the ChatGPT to just analyze the website. So you literally can go to job descriptions, product updates, take the whole entire text, put it inside of ChatGPT and say, hey, can you break down like the 5 top things that these keywords are? Or hey, can you take this whole entire article and tell me 5 key things that I can use for like research? So these are just a couple things that you can do beforehand to stand out. So that's my recommendation for you all as well. And then it just was mentioned earlier, if you go into Claude, you can input your 10K reports, things of that nature, and you can actually get more results there too. So something to keep in mind. Cool. All right, y'all. We're going to wrap up here. So, Jed, where can people find you if they have more questions or they have more prompts that they want broken down? Where can they find you at?
Yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn, Jed Marley. Shoot me a message. If you have any specific questions around issues you're having when it comes to AI or ChatGPT or specific prompts, just let me know. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. And y'all can find me on LinkedIn if you have any more questions at Morgan J. Ingram. Hopefully y'all found this session helpful for your ChatGPT, your prompts, or AI. Maybe we'll run it back with Claude once we get a better understanding of what is happening in there. But we appreciate y'all, and y'all have a good one.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Morgan.
Cheers.